Hello. I know. Long story. I'm sorry I'm late. You know, I'm normally bob on time, but yeah, I had a little bit of a mishap making a cup of coffee. So yeah, I had to remake it. Oops. And now I'm dropping my vape. How are we all? It's a long time since I've spoken to you, Wick Wick. So, oh God, these things that are over the screen again, they're really shit, aren't they? Oh, what's that? What's this? Show comments on stage. What the hell is that? Oh, whatever. Anyway, let's see who was in. Me, you. Oh, Cassius half an hour ago. Anyway, I'll just fart about for a little few minutes. I sent you while you're here, Wick. You might want to just have a quick check of your WhatsApp, love. Just while we're waiting. Hi, Frida. Lovely to see you. Hope you're well. Are you still kitty cat sitting? So we're doing history tonight. Bit of history. So hopefully I won't bore you all to tears. But as you know, it's stuff that I really love. So yeah. What have we all been up to? What have you been up to today, Frida? Have you had your feet up? Have you done anything? Been anywhere? I can't ask Wiki that because I spent like 2 hours with her on a live stream this afternoon. Oh, and in case anybody's wondering, after me telling, because I got a couple of messages to my phone about Cooper, he's fine. He's fine. Yes, he was crippled on Sunday. He was quite bad on Monday. He was still limping yesterday, but nowhere near as bad. Today, I would say he's probably about 80% on the mend now. So nothing too tragic. And hopefully we are supposed to be going up to the lakes at weekend, but I'll see how he gets on. Yeah, it's a bit weird here. It's quite windy, Frida. It's not cold though. I took Cooper out for a little walk before and I just went out in a t-shirt. Well, no, obviously I had pants on, but t-shirt and a pair of jeans. And it looked quite like, you know, as though it was going to be cold out, especially because the sky's grey. But when I got outside, it was still quite humid. So very weird weather. And one of my colleagues is actually in, where is he? Oh God, I forgot which country he's in. But anyway, he dialed in. We had a Zoom meeting yesterday, and he's in Europe. I think he's in Nice. I think. Anyway, for work. So he actually dialed into the Zoom call, and he was saying at that time it was 43 degrees. And he was saying, I'm wet. He said, it's so humid, I can't even tell you. So at least we're not experiencing that. And what's it like in Northern Ireland, Frida? Is it pretty much the same? Anywho, yeah, thank you. Yeah, he's all right. I forget that, you know, he's 10. So he's an old boy, really. He doesn't act like it. He definitely doesn't look like it, but you know. All right, okay, Wix. I'll have a word with you later on, lovey, about that. Anyway, so oh, it's mild and sunny. Oh, that's all right. Hi, Cassius. Hello. Hope you're well. So, for those people who don't know what we're talking about tonight, it's history. You may have seen my community post. I also did a short video, just as a little taster, really, for where we went to at the weekend. Now, if you cast your mind back to 2022, I think, end of 2021, beginning of 2022, and I was doing the stories on the Vikings, and I actually did touch on the graves that are cut into the bedrock at Heysham Head in Lancashire, and that's where we went at weekend. So Saturday, me and Stevie and Cooper went on the hunt for Saxons and Vikings and Normans, and that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. Oh, you're up at the shops, are you, Cassis? What you getting? Anything good? Fags? I don't know. It's like Magnum weather. Although it's not roasting hot at the moment, it just feels like I should be eating a Magnum. I like the white ones, the white chocolate ones. Hey, Salty! Good to see you. You're here. Mark me safe now from stalkers. That is all. Oh, you're going for milk? Oh, do you know, I don't know if I told you guys, I've stopped drinking milk. I'm drinking almond milk now. There is a method in me madness before I get onto my history thing. And Salty, you may or may not agree. One of my friends is a nurse. She's a nurse practitioner, so she's like right up there. She kind of doesn't really agree with me. So one of my aunts, my mum's sisters, had very, very aggressive breast cancer. I think she was, oh God, I can't remember how old. She wasn't old anyway, but she found a lump. It was so aggressive, it had kind of doubled in size in like next to no time. By the time they got her into hospital to take a biopsy, they realised it was cancerous. It was also in the other breast, and she had to have a double mastectomy. Horrendous. Hi, Danny! Oh, lovely to see you. We're just having a little chat and then I'll get into the history. So I hope that you enjoy this one, Danny. And thank you so much for your kind comments. Cooper says hello as well. So, yeah, she ended up having to have a double mastectomy, and under her left arm, all her lymph nodes had to be removed. So, because it had spread so quickly. And when because she has one daughter, and obviously because my mum died when my sister and I were little, our medical history, we have to go off my mum's sisters, that they're our closest or her closest female relatives. So, you know, normally they'll say to you, did you, you know, has your mum had, or has you, well, we can't answer that. So we have to go off her sisters. So anyway, she got tested, and it's the genetically inherited breast cancer. Her own daughter was tested as well. And as a result of that, I started getting a bit panicky about, you know, all the estrogens that are pumped into milk and cream and all the rest of it. I would drink, if you can get raw milk, which there aren't many places nowadays that will, that have raw milk, you know, and by that it's like, oh, you know, the cows are not fed. It's straight from the cow. It's not processed milk. It's not filled full of estrogens, and it's the estrogens in the milk that can, you know, they found that these are now basically, they're not great, especially for women who may be prone to breast cancer. So I am now drinking almond milk. I was drinking oat milk, and then I found out that that can actually affect your glycogen levels. There's always something, isn't there? And insulin levels and what have you. So I'm now drinking almond milk. But I really do miss a cup of tea. And I've tried almond milk in tea, and it's just not the same. Don't mind it in coffee. That's fine. But almond milk in tea, not nice. So yeah, that was a big, long, convoluted story as to why I see somebody saying they're getting milk, and straight away I'm like, oh, I want a brew. I want a Yorkshire tea. I need a brew. Anyway, I'll stop waffling on. So, welcome everybody. And I am, oh no, I've tried that, and I don't mind oat, but I'm not drinking it because that's got its own issues. But the almond milk is all right. the unsweetened almond milk. So anyway, right, okay, guys and gals, I shall get to it. So if you've seen my video, you'll know where I'm going to talk about. If you haven't, pin your ears back. It's not going to be a very long live, but hopefully you'll find it a bit interesting. So Saturday, myself, Stevie and Cooper decided to take off up the coast in northwest Lancashire and head towards, we were going to do a coast walk, and starting off at Morecambe, which is, you know, you're getting up to the Lake District at this point. And Morecambe has got an incredibly long promenade as well. So if you're going to walk from from Morecambe to Heysham and back again, it's a pretty good distance. I think in total, the way we were going anyway, if you're going from Arnside and come all the way down Morecambe Bay to Heysham and back again, you're talking about 10 miles or so. We did just less because of where we'd parked. We did about 8 miles altogether. Hi, YouTube lady. Good to see you, love. So because we were doing this walk, and then I said, oh, Heysham, we can go to Heysham Head. And that is where St. Patrick's Chapel is, and where St. Peter's Church is, and where the stone-cut graves are, which are supposed to be Viking, and where the Viking hogs back. So I got into the whole realms of, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I'm going to go get me total geek on and do the whole history thing. So that's what we did. So we headed off up. Now, I'll give you a little bit of the background of Heysham. It's because of where it's situated. Heysham is in North Lancashire, and it's on the edge of Morecambe Bay. So Lancashire is kind of the northwest of England. To the east is Yorkshire, to the south is Greater Manchester and Cheshire, southwest is Wales. So we're kind of, you know, Merseyside, I should have said, sorry, as well. Helen, happy thoughts. If you're listening, please forgive me. I didn't mean to leave you out. Okay. So if you have a little look, there's a bit of a bay. That's Morecambe Bay, just before you get to the Cumbrian coastline and going up towards Scotland. Because of its situation, historically, Heysham has had links with, you know, places like the Isle of Man and the east coast of Ireland specifically. Where it is, because it's kind of on this bit of a promontory, and although it might not look that far away as the crow flies, even for people who don't live that far away, such as myself, it's a fair distance, but, you know, you look as the crow fly and you think, that's not too bad. But it's quite difficult to get to, and it takes quite a while to get to it, even driving. So it's always been, because of its location, it's always been easily accessed by the sea. Now, it's the northwest of England. It's a bit of a funny place, really. So although we had Romans here, you know, they made themselves felt in Lancaster, and, you know, quite a few different places. You know, there's remnants of them in Wigan. They made the way up and through, and they tried to head north. But because of the Celts that were in the northwest of England, they didn't really take over here the way that they managed to take over in other areas of England. And this area, it was the Brigantes, which were in this area of the northwest. Now, they were kind of like urban war. It was a bit like urban warfare, you know, that the Celts that were in this area, they knew the place like the back of the hand, and they were hit and run merchants and these chariots. And even though they had no armor like the greatest fighting force in the known world, they were annihilating the Romans and kicking their arse. And in the end, it ended up as a bit of an uneasy truce. So some of the Romans, I know Frieda was going to say, what have the Romans ever done for us? So some of the Romans, this bit of an uneasy truce, and they weren't that far away in Lancaster, but they ended up, you know, a lot of the Romans kind of intermarried with local Celtic women, and the real fighters who wanted nothing to do with them, they kind of retreated back into the hills and away. So it wasn't really a major battleground, but they didn't really conquer the northwest the same way as they did. So there's not really a heavy Roman presence at this area. We know that the Romans did come through Morecambe Bay, and they landed a little bit further north, because Morecambe Bay back then, although it was shallower, the channels were much deeper, so it was more easily accessible by boats. There's even there's been somewhere that the Phoenicians had actually, you know, came here at some point. And I mean, the Phoenicians are the people that are credited with passing on their knowledge of boat building to the Vikings. They didn't pass on their navigational expertise, but they definitely did pass on some of the boat building skills. So, you know, they kind of get everywhere. But yeah, it's just to touch on some kind of rough history of the area. There would have been Stone Age people here, Iron Age people here, but going back to Mesolithic, Paleolithic times, the people were hunter-gatherers. Now there are, you know, they would follow the game. So as the game moved with the seasons, the people would follow them. So although there is evidence of people having been around the Heysham area, settlements maybe not so much. Now, there's a few weird things about this site that we visited. Heysham itself is a beautiful little village. It's absolutely beautiful. It's quiet. It's quaint. You know, sometimes you go to places like Cornwall or, you know, North Devon, and there are little villages with tiny narrow streets that wind around, and all the houses are higgledy-piggledy, and there'll be some very ancient houses and some newer houses, but it's all, you know, linked in together. That is a little bit like Heysham. It's a lovely little area. I absolutely adore it. So the other thing is that another interesting thing is that the chapel I'm about to tell you about, and I didn't realise this until I actually visited there, that they're built right on the edge, and you will have seen in my little video if you watched it, when we went down the paths, and I actually was showing the base of the chapel, and I said, wow, you know, it's built into the bedrock. That is right on the edge of what are they're actually the only sea cliffs in the whole of the county of Lancashire. I was thinking, no, there are cliffs, but when you think about it, there actually aren't. They are the only sea cliffs in the whole of the county of Lancashire. So on top of that, what makes it so special is it's a really dramatic location, but there are several other aspects as well that make it such an interesting, fascinating place. This isn't just for historians and archaeologists. This is basically for anyone with an interest in the history of the area. Now, the name St. Patrick's Chapel. There are a few theories on this one. Some people say that it's where St. Patrick launched off from, you know, Morecambe Bay to head over to Ireland to take Christianity to the Irish. There is another legend that St. Patrick himself, on his return from Ireland to his home. Now, St. Patrick he was born in the British Isles. Where exactly, we're not sure. Some people think he was born in what's now Cumbria. Other people think he was born in southern Scotland. I think it's Cassie's may know this. Was it Kilmarnock, I think? Didn't they reckon he was born around Kilmarnock? I might be wrong, but anyway, so there's a little bit of controversy, but they do know that he was from the British Isles, and he was from a Romano-British family, very educated. The Picts were, when the Romans left, the Picts kind of decided to spread down. You know, and the Picts they were actually pretty violent people. The Celts in the northwest of England had kind of, because they'd reached this truce with the Romans and they were living quite peaceably, they didn't really know how to fight anymore. They did, but they weren't the battlers that, you know, and it's like, shit, what do we do? St. Patrick was actually stolen by Pictish slavers and he was then taken away from where he was. He ended up in Ireland, where he escaped and headed back to England. And this is where they think he possibly was shipwrecked, in Morecambe Bay somewhere. We're not sure. But also on the west coast of the Isle of Man. So the Isle of Man, for those who don't know, sits in the Irish Sea in between Ireland and England. And on the west coast, there's an area of the Isle of Man called St. Patrick's Isle. You know, did he land there part way? You know, come from Ireland, land there overnight on the Isle of Man, get a boat from the Isle of Man and continue his journey on to England? Who can say? It's not been documented. A lot of this is word of mouth, you know, as legends are told and they spread and people repeat them, a little bit gets changed. A bit like on here, you know, Chinese whispers. Somebody says one thing and by the time it's reached YouTube, it's completely different. Now, the little chapel that I'm going to talk about, when I'm talking about the Picts and the Celts had forgotten to fight, and the you know, the 4th century, or was it the 5th century, 400 AD, I think it was, the Romans upped and left. They left. And hi Brian, good to see you. And then the Anglo-Saxons and Jutes invaded, and they were the Germanic tribes from Germany. Now, we refer to this chapel that I'm going to talk about as a Saxon chapel, and we say the Saxon period, but actually the Saxons as a people never actually got to northwest England. It was actually the Angles. So the Angles stepped in, and the Celts are thinking, well, you know, the best of a bad bunch, will side with the Angles because they're a little bit more, you know, they're not as frightening and scary and vicious as the Picts. So where the Romans left a gap, the Angles stepped in. So when I'm saying Saxon, it's because the Saxons became the most successful of the 3 Germanic tribes. So that's why we say Anglo-Saxon. We should be called Anglo-Celtic rather than Anglo-Saxons. They were only one of 3 people, you know. But Alfred the Great, who, you know, and his dynasty that ended up ruling the UK, not the UK, ruling England, and united England as one kingdom rather than multiple mini kingdoms with little mini kings all over the place. And he was a Saxon, you know, he's from Wessex, or what is it, West Saxon, like the song they've done, like what, like Brian, not the Bangles, the Angles. Oh, he's back, he's Brian. So yeah, so just wanted to point that out. Although I'm referring to it as a Saxon chapel, it's an Anglo-Saxon chapel, or an Angle chapel. It was just built during what we've known as the Saxon period. Right, I'm going to stop waffling now. So the reason why this chapel is called St. Patrick's, and there's also very, very close by, and if you look at any maps, the other church that we were looking at, so on my video, there was a little bit where Cooper was looking for Stevie through the door of the church. That church, they think, in its current incarnation, was founded round about 750, just look at my notes. Yeah, round about 750 AD. However, there had already been a chapel there prior to this. So we're talking early Christian. So sometime between, you know, the mid 400s up to 750, there was a place of worship there. This is at exactly the same time that the little Anglo, or the Saxon chapel I'm talking about, St. Patrick's, was built. Now, it's really, really unusual for 2 chapels or churches to be so close together. There was usually one in a village or a settlement, and then another one in the next village or settlement, but there wasn't. This is quite rare. So why? And this is where the speculation comes in. So if we go with the story that St. Patrick was shipwrecked in Morecambe Bay and managed to make it to Heysham Head, it would kind of fit with round about 444 AD, which is when they think that possibly the first incarnation of St. Patrick's Chapel was actually built. And the way it was laid out would be more in fitting with that mid-5th century style, St. Patrick's style, than slightly later, which would take you into the, early Saxon period. And also the fact that because St. Patrick was known more for bringing Christianity to Ireland, it's quite rare to have so many places in England from that time period named after St. Patrick. You've got St. Patrick's Chapel, St. Patrick's Church, St. Patrick's Well, St. Patrick's. There are so many of them that it kind of does lend to the story that it's because he actually was there. So it's believed that he potentially founded that original chapel. It's also thought that after he passed away, nobody knows where he's buried, but it's believed that he could have possibly been buried there, because there are some incredibly high status burials at that little ruined chapel. And if he wasn't buried there, it could be that there was a reliquary containing maybe his bones, some artifacts, because pilgrims would love to visit artifacts of saints that were, stored in different churches, and usually they'd store them under the altars and what have you. Let me just see what Cassie's saying. Because when you mentioned the Brigantes, the film The Eagle, oh yes, that's with what's his name? Jamie Bell, isn't it? And he was a guy out of Magic Mike. Obviously, you can tell where my brain's going. Channing Tatum, that's it. Yeah, it was a really good film. Or was it? Was that The Eagle? Oh, yeah, the other one I was thinking of is Centurion, the one with... No, that's Centurion, isn't it? With Michael Fassbender. The Eagle is the one with Jamie Bell, and who plays I think he plays a Brigantes slave. Yeah, no, it's fine, but they're both really good films. I really like them, and they're both, I think, relating to the loss of the Ninth Legion, aren't they? So, now that I've gone wandering off, so because of the number of places that are named after St. Patrick, as we were just saying, it seems more likely that he does have an actual link with the place. And I think that's quite nice, and the fact that the chapel's built there on the only sea cliffs in the whole of Lancashire, looking out across the Irish Sea towards, where he possibly was shipwrecked, looking out towards the Isle of Man, and even further over to the east coast of Ireland. And I think that's really, really pretty. It's a really pretty thought. It's a beautiful view. It's very atmospheric. When we went, it was absolutely screaming a hoolie. Wasn't cold, but it was so windy. That's why I had to do a talk over, because you just couldn't hear what I was saying. Anywho, so let's get on. Right. Now, the graves, so there's been quite a lot of, there has been quite a lot of archaeology done at the site. There are some barrows actually nearby as well, where they found flint tools and so on and so forth. But what I wanted to concentrate on was the actual grave, the stone cut graves. Now, again, there's controversy over these because nobody knows what they are. They don't know when they were dug into because they're actually in the bedrock. So they don't know when they were dug into or carved into the bedrock. There are different thoughts. Were the little holes above the figures, were they for grave goods, or they could have had crosses erected into them, grave markers erected into them? The actual cuts into the bedrock and the body shapes, they aren't actually deep enough to have housed a complete body. So they think that it may have been disarticulated bones. It just depends what the practices of the time were. I mean, if you think about, a lot of Celts, they would either they'd leave the bones out until they decomposed and the flesh was all gone. And once the bones were defleshed, they'd be collected up, and then they would either be buried or they'd be burned. They'd be placed into pots. So that could be one thing, but it's not a particularly Christian way of burying. Now, they are in a more or less east-west alignment, not exactly east-west. The other graves are, but there aren't just those, there are also two separate. So you've got that line of stone-cut graves, but there are also, over near the chapel, another two, smaller ones. Well, when I looked at them, and I shouted Stevie over, I didn't know they were there, and I said, "Hey, look at these." And one of these cuts is smaller. Now, if you were thinking that you were going to actually put bodies in, to me, it looked like say, potentially a mother and a child. But that wouldn't fit if they weren't deep enough for the bodies to go into. So it wouldn't really matter how large one of these graves were if they were disarticulated bones, because they'd just be piled in. So I don't actually know. If anybody's wondering what about the east-west alignment, I did talk about this with Wiccan today on her live, if any of you heard it. The reason that, so when bodies are uncovered, especially in this country, when you find bodies, so sometimes, especially like the Celts, Romans as well, pre-Christian or Christian era but pagan, they'd be buried in different directions. They were very often buried in a crouched position, so the arms and the legs would be bound and they'd be in the fetal position as though they were being returned to Mother Earth. Christian burials were different, so a lot of them did, Frida. They did have the burials at sea, but that wasn't for everybody. That they were the rich people. A full boat would be sent off, and probably I don't know that it was a jarl or a king or what have you. But a lot of them were, they might have had a cremation, and that's been found in some places as well. That the Vikings, where they were settling, that they would then take on the local customs, whether that was a case of wanting to fit in, which it could have been, just the same as when the Vikings took over a certain place, people would adopt Viking customs so that they didn't stand out and they fitted in. And then you find that different cultures kind of all merge into one, and and that's what makes us who we are, isn't it? So one of in the actual standing church, so St. Peter's Church, there was a female burial that was uncovered there, and I think it was in the 1800s. I can't remember the exact date. And next to her was found that Hogsback grave marker, which is very distinctly Viking. So although she was buried in a Christian site as a Christian, she was still retaining her Viking roots. And that's the one that you thought, Frida thought that was a penis when she saw the photograph of the Hogsback grave marker. God love you. But yeah, she said, when I first saw it, I thought it was a penis. Just shows where Frida's dirty mind is. That's all I'm going to say about that. So you said it. You see, your secrets can't be safe with me, Frida. I blab all. Sorry. So when we're talking about the east-west alignment for Christians, they're usually buried on the backs, usually with their arms folded across the chests, wrapped in a shroud of some sort, but they would be on the backs with the feet pointing due east and the head pointing at the head, the back of the head facing west. And the reason for this is because that, you've all heard, anyone who's had a Christian upbringing knows that on Judgment Day, and the dead will arise from the tomb and, face your maker. This is so that on the very last day, on Judgment Day, when they rise from the grave, they will actually rise to face the rising sun of Judgment Day. So that's why Christians are buried in an east, and even now they're buried the same way in an east-west alignment. So that's a little bit of boring Jackie facts that I remember. So with this, as I said, St. Peter's Church, which is so close to it. I mean, you can walk and it's a few steps. Because this is the same period and it's so unusual, this is kind of adding a little bit more credence to the fact that we think maybe the real St. Patrick had something to do with St. Patrick's Chapel. So I just found it so interesting. Now, if you've seen the video, did you see the bit where I'm filming in the graveyard? I'm like, oh, look, we found this other little chapel and there's kind of an archway that doesn't lead anywhere. It's just before we go up the steps and you can hear Stevie shouting, oh, you really want to come and look at this? That archway was uncovered again. That was in the 18th century. There was a buttress wall to St. Peter's Church, the one that's still standing and is still in use today. And when they were removing the wall, they actually found that archway, and that is an original Saxon doorway. So the rector asked for it to be dismantled brick by brick, and it was rebuilt in that spot, brick by brick, even though it goes nowhere. But the area that it's in are where the little steps. Now, I didn't know at the time that both of these chapels were built, around about the same time. They would have been standing around about the same time, which also leads me to believe, or me to think, that the little steps, when you saw my video and I'm like, oh God, and this is leading up, and look, it's coming up at the back end of the chapel. Maybe, I don't know what you guys think, and let me know in chat, because I'm open. One of my thoughts is that they would possibly go and attend Mass at St. Peter's, and then following the Mass and communion and whatever else, that they would then walk procession, in a procession, and go up the little steps, which are, they are so worn. That's over 1,000 years of footfall, and then would head on up to St. Patrick's Chapel, which is up on the headland, and, do a pilgrimage. Maybe that was a Sunday ritual, a daily ritual. I don't know, but that's what I was thinking. Maybe that's why those steps are there, because you can get to it round the other side. But it does make sense then, why those steps are where they are, and why two chapels are so close together. So I don't know. That's what I think. I think that would have probably been a weekly occurrence to people in the area, go to Mass and then carry on up. There were Masses held up at St. Patrick's Chapel. Now, originally, the doorway that you saw me walking through, that wasn't there. It was kind of half the size. It was like a little tiny square of a building, really. And then that was added on in the 900s. So there was that little extra bit of about, I don't know, it's about 6-9 feet, maybe 10 feet extra was added onto the building with that archway in it. It was just fascinating. And the weird thing was, when I walked through that archway, I don't know if anybody's ever felt this before. Sometimes you get vibrations, especially from granite and places of, especially where there are ley lines, where there are underground streams, different things like that. You tingle. There was a real tingly sensation walking through that archway. Now, did I imagine it? I might have done. But it gave me a rush to think that, oh my God, I have just actually stepped on exactly the same floor, the exact same doorway. I've just touched the walls that about 1,400 years, well, not 1,400 for the doorway. We're talking, over 1,000 years of, 1,100 years, is it? Of people have walked before me. And I don't know, it just made me go, oh God, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. So, the other thing as well, that people may not know, is that Heysham actually has every year a Viking festival. They have a Viking festival in York, which is I believe, I mean, I've been several times to the Jorvik Festival. That's the largest Viking festival in the whole of Europe, believe it or not. You would think it would be bigger in, say, Norway or Sweden or but no, York. And Hisham has a Viking festival, funnily enough, this month. And it's really good. There are a lot of craftspeople. All the people on the stalls, they have to dress in Viking garb. So even if they can't see, you know, if they need glasses, they're not allowed to wear the glasses. They have to be authentic. There are a lot of Viking craftspeople there. They do a reenactment. They do fights. They did a good one, which was related to the St. Brice's Day massacre. I don't know if anybody knows about that. I'll tell you in a second. Anyway, this year, it is on the 19th and the 20th of July. So Saturday and Sunday, Saturday the 19th, Sunday the 20th of July. That is the Viking Festival in Hisham. If you can, if you're in the northwest of England, go along. It's great. It's a really, really good. Yeah, they do classes. They have to dress that same way. There are a few videos online about it. There is a channel called From the Shore, and SHORE. I don't know if you want to have a look at it, but if you look up their channel, From the Shore, they cover, I think they're local to Hisham, and they've covered a few years of the Viking Festival. It's really worth going to. All these old crafts and actually Hisham's a really nice place to stay. There are loads of bed and breakfast or holiday rentals there. You're not that far from Morecambe. You know, you could stay there, or further afield, or just go for the day out. It's a really good festival. It's well worth going to. Thoroughly recommend it. Now, let me just have a little think before I go on to St. Brice's Day. So, also in... Oh, have you found it? Is that From the Shore, Sheila? There's, if that's the channel, they have a really, I didn't know you were in, Sheila, love. Sorry, darling, I hadn't seen you. There's, if you check out the 2024 festival, and that's really good. Oh, thank you so much, Sheila. Thank you. So yeah, it's, it's not massive, but it's really good and it's authentic. So in St. Peter's Church, so, all right, okie dokie. Hello, sister. So in St. Peter's Church, we're going to come away from St. Patrick's now and walk down to St. Peter's Church. So it's a really interesting graveyard. Now, apparently up to, I think, the turn of this century, people were still being buried there until very, very recently. Apparently now the cemetery's full, so you can't be buried there anymore. But there are quite a few interesting things in there. So I think I showed you on my video the preaching stone, which was 696 AD, which is like, wow, how old are you? There's also the base of a Christian stroke Scandinavian cross, and a lot of these, there's a place in not far from Stranraer, and I'm trying to think of the name of it. They've got similar, it's a cross which is definitely Christian in part, but there's also a lot of Viking iconology all over it. So it kind of shows that although the Vikings in the area, they wanted to just get on, but although they'd converted to Christianity, they had retained vestiges of the Viking origins, like the lady that was found buried in the graveyard that, with the Hogsback grave marker. And sometimes the Scandinavians were being buried with grave goods. a totally pagan thing because the Christians didn't do that, but they still wanted to be buried with something that reminded them of their, it was the difference that we live here, we love it here, we've converted, but don't forget where we came from. We are Scandinavian. What's he saying? Clicked on it. The first thing I saw was a guy blowing through a horn. Just about jumped out my seat. I know this is about history, but I shot myself. Is it the guy with the little blue hat on, Cassius? But you see, at that festival, it's so good because you see people showing you how to finger the kind of finger knitting socks, which is a bit like macrame, and yes, it's great, isn't it? There's leather working, there's silver working. There's a guy there that's making bows, and hand planing bows, and it's and another lady showing you how to dye cloth with just using leaves. And one of the things, and I thought, it's something that the kids would love about, there's different leaves that you can use. One gives you yellow and one will give you red, but the woad, which is for blue, the others you can just activate with water, but woad, you can put it in water and nothing will happen. So basically the only way to activate woad is to use whey. And, and we've all heard about that because they used to do it for tanning leather as well, didn't they? You'd have people walking up and down collecting buckets of piss from the houses, basically so that they could treat leather. And hi, Six Banger, great to see you. Why are you not a mod? I will have to attend to that after this live, but thank you so much for coming in. So it's all really interesting things like that. So if you've got a love of history, and you've got a love of Vikings and all things Norse, give Hisham Viking Festival a try, because it really is worth it, especially kids love it, anything like that, especially if it involves wee and poo, and there are some really great stories when you're there. So yeah, go along. I can't sing its praises enough for a little festival, and it's all funded locally, so you can you can donate online. There's a nice link there. So, and I must say that the village hall, or rather the church hall, St Peter's Church Hall, that opens of a weekend, and it's a tea room. And do you know what? It's really, really nice. We went in, I had an amazing cup of cappuccino. He had a latte, and even he said, for a little cafe that's run by volunteers, so that was a really good cup of coffee. The cakes are nice as well. It's all run by volunteers. So yes, sorry, I'm going to go back to St Peter's. So, well, do you know what, Cassie? I had to have normal milk. That was the only thing. Because, yeah, there was no option. Anyway, it doesn't matter. As a one-off, it was good, though. But afterwards, I was like, shit, I had milk in my coffee. I could have had a brew. So could have actually had tea, which I miss. So, yeah, so going back to St Peter's Church itself, it's absolutely beautiful church. So you've got one end of it is, and it's more obvious inside. You can tell outside, but it's more obvious inside. So you can see the Saxon period walls inside. And then it was added on to again in the 11th century. So about the 1080s, something like that, which is the Norman period. So then that was added on. And then it was added on again in the Middle Ages. So in the 14th century, I think, a little bit more was added on. So although it's a bit of a hodgepodge of different eras, you go inside it and it's such a peaceful, beautiful place. It still carries out services. And, looking at it, it's one of those places that if you, like, one of my friends got married in Whitewell in the Ribble Valley, and the church there where they got married was it was breathtakingly beautiful. this is what St. Peter's Church is like. It's one of those places that if you were wanting to have an atmospheric wedding for a small, because it's not a massive church, it took my breath away when I went into it. And they've got the hogsback grave is in there, the grave markers in there as well, and the chalice that I'd taken a photograph of, which they think dates back to the Norman portion of the church, and that's shown there in the wall. In the church hall where we went and had a coffee, there are artifacts in there that have been dug up around the site. It's just amazing. But where the video that I've got, where Cooper's looking at the door, and again, that's a Norman doorway. To the left of that, at the end of the church, the butt end, the arse end of the church, there's a bricked up doorway. That is what was the original Saxon entrance in. And obviously, it's been built on and added, and it's different heights and levels, but that was the original Saxon doorway that's now been bricked up. It's so fascinating to see. I just, it just absolutely took my breath away. So, hi Voodoo! Afternoon everyone, in between meetings, love this kind of content, might be able to pop in later. Oh, it'd be great if we could see you later, Voodoo. It's absolutely gorgeous to see you, and I hope you're doing well. I'm getting back into my history stuff. We're going out doing trips around and videoing things. So I'll be doing some more again this weekend. So I'm hoping to start doing an adventure once a week with something historical, because we've got so much history here and we take it for granted. And I'm a geek. So yeah, so I hope you enjoy it. Now then, would anybody like to know anything about anything? What do we think? Any questions about the place? Anything you think I've missed out? Because I'm just rattling off, and I made a few notes with kind of dates and things on, but because I get so excited when I'm talking, it just kind of, I kind of go off at a tangent. In Heysham Village as well, there's the old St. Patrick's Well. I think there were two of them. One of them is in a private garden that's no longer in use. One of them, and we didn't find it. And it turned out afterwards we'd actually walked straight past it and didn't even flipping notice. So much I'd love to know, but I think being there, you get so much more from it. You absolutely do, Wiki. And sorry, and I realised I went off when I was saying before about the other two grave cuts. And the fact that, oh yes, Frida, a Viking wife would not stand for being the. They could have an agreement where, if they decided to bring a third person into a relationship, but it had to be consensual, both the husband and the wife. But Viking society, it was one of the most progressive for women anyway, because if you think about the rest of Europe at that time, women were just traded. We had no value. That you were married off to bring something to your family or to your father, or, shoved into a nunnery because you were we weren't educated, we weren't afforded an education unless we were incredibly lucky from a wealthy family, and this carried on right up to very recent times. You're talking in the beginning of the last century, probably up to the 1930s. And but Viking wives could divorce the husbands. Now where else, go back to that Saxon period, where else were women allowed to do that and say, I've had enough, jog on, I'm divorcing you, and marry another man? It just wasn't heard of. Oh, thank you, Six. I can be a bit boring because I love history, and mainly this period, but yeah, and especially when I've been visiting places, Anglo-Saxon and Viking and Celtic history is something that really lights a fire underneath me. I think it was Frida was asking if they only got buried at sea. I was wondering that too. I thought that they were cremated or buried on land. Yeah, it was, as I said, your Viking burials, your burials at sea. Um, Again, if it's kind of showmanship, look at this. I am so wealthy, I can afford to burn a boat that probably took 2 years to build. An incredibly wealthy man. But then you also look on, oh God, was it Orkney or Shetland? I can't remember. I think it was Orkney. Oh God, I'm going to kill myself now because I know that I'm going to get this wrong. Okay, one of the Hebridean Islands, a burial was found in the sand dunes after a storm. A lot of the sand dunes, it was a really bad storm. And this is recently, this is only in the last 20, 30 years. It exposed a huge area of the sand dunes, and they actually found a boat burial in there. And it was a woman and a child. And she was found with, it was like a whalebone, possibly an ironing board. I know it sounds daft, and the thinking, because they were in a burial, and because of the age, and it was an older lady, like a grandmother with this child, the thinking it could have possibly been a drowning, and then they were buried where they were. And obviously the coast has eroded over the last 1,000+ years. So you did have some who were, and especially in Scandinavia, they're buried in the boats. They weren't burned in them, they were buried in them. You've got the warrior graves, and there quite a few have been unearthed in Sweden, but it just depended on where they were and how much of the local culture that the Vikings had taken on. And as I said, they are finding in England, where they've taken on the local traditions of burying, like a Catholic Christian burials, or like Celtic burials where they're burning and disarticulating bones, which isn't really a Viking thing. So yeah, it just depended. Early Irish Breton law is very like the Vikings, and that's the other thing as well. The amount of like the number 12 is a Viking thing. Prior to that, everything was in tens. The Roman way, but the Vikings, it was 12 men judged you. It's people don't realize how much of an influence these people had on us. I just love it. I absolutely love it. I love getting immersed in the history. I love, and even look at the Isle of Man. So the Isle of Man is a Norse island. It's, on a par with, you're looking at the Outer Hebrides and Orkney and Shetland. The Isle of Man, even to this day, the Manx government hold a thing, and thing was the Norse word. It was the meeting of the parliament, the government. Oh, Harold Bluetooth, Cassius. I think early Irish law was before the Vikings coming to Ireland, but you'd have to check. Probably, and also, both influenced each other. You took on, the Irish would have took on, like we did, like the Manx people did. They took on some of the Viking ways, and then the Vikings took on some of their ways. And it's, it was an exchange of information. It was an exchange of intelligence, and it was just a way to kind of to cohabit, really. Oh, did they? The women had all the rights in Irish law as well. Yeah, the symbol Bluetooth thing is a rune symbol, runic. Oh yeah, you've not seen the tat I'm getting. I might show you photos later. If a man didn't perform as he should, she could divorce him. So was that? I'm going to guess, was that pre-Christian? Was that the pagan Irish? Because obviously, if you go back to, early Christian times, that's when women then lost the rights, which was shite. Yeah, I was going to say, because obviously, with the coming of Christianity, women started getting stripped of everything, really. You damn men, you. Now, I was going to talk about St. Bryce's Day, wasn't I? Sorry, again, went off at a tangent. So, you've got these, there are Vikings in this area, as we knew. There were Vikings that had, and also don't forget as well, there was a big influx of Vikings coming over from Ireland. Kiss is a Seventh Day Advent the same as a wasp? I don't know what's a wasp and what's a Seventh Day Advent. I'm really sorry, I don't know. Can anybody answer Six Banger? I'm really sorry, I'm being thick here. Do you mean Seventh Day Adventist? But I don't. Is that a Seventh Day Adventist? Are they Joey's? Oh, Cassius, thank you. White Anglo-Saxon Protestant. No, I think Seventh Day Adventists, I think, are Joey's, aren't they? Can somebody answer that? Or Google it, please? I'm not sorry, Joey's are Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't know if I think that's Seventh Day Adventist. So if it is, the different things. Oh, Sam gave you that. Oh, is that so I'm going to guess that is an American abbreviation. I've never heard that WASP before. I'm sorry for being ignorant, Six Banger. I'd never heard that. But yeah, I think Seventh Day Adventists are Joey's. I'll wait for somebody in chat because I'm using my phone. I can't actually check because I'll get thrown out of chat if I try and Google something. Brian Law. No, I know, Wiki. See, we're all getting educated tonight. You guys are getting educated on how geeky I am. And I'm learning what wasps are. But obviously, when somebody said wasp, and I'm obviously straight away, I start thinking rude abbreviations, which I should never do. I'm thinking, what's that an acronym for? Anyway, so this weekend, we are, Cooper being well, of course, we're going to do one of two places. If he's still struggling, which I don't think he will do, but if I don't think that he's going to be up to it, we're going to go to Pendle, do some filming and walk around Pendle Hill and look for Malkins and look at the, round the graveyards there at Sabden and Barley and just get into the whole witch vibe. Or if he is up to it and it's not absolutely appalling weather, we're heading to the Lake District. And there are stone circles, there are ancient things to be seen up there. I'll leave it as a surprise. You won't know where I've been until I've been. But that's what we're going to do this weekend. Because like I said, what I want to do is to do at least once a week. So it's kind of like an adventure with Cooper, because I haven't done those for ages either. Adventures with Cooper and adventures with me. And I can bore the shit out of everybody talking about history. but I'm really wanting to do this whole Viking thing up the west coast because we've got so much. There's so much Viking history here. You know, when they were kicked out of Ireland, you know, some of them did land in the Isle of Man, and there they stayed, and they married the local women, and you know, whatever. And the other thing as well was you knew that it was mainly that army that was kicked out of Ireland. You know, they launched them out of Dublin, the Irish. They just had enough. Might go on, off you go. You knew that it was mainly men, because there were very. I think in the Isle of Man, there were virtually no women of Scandinavian origin found. It was just a male army, so they stayed and they married the local women. Became those that didn't settle in the Isle of Man hit the west coast of England. So you had them landing in Anglesey, you had them landing where we were, Heysham, Morecambe, you know, coming up the River Mersey, going to Widnes. If you remember me talking about that, the Vidness, you know, the wide nose, that's how Widnes got its name, you know, where it was like the nose of a snake. So they came up the River Ribble. They came up the River Ribble, and that's where the Cuerden Hall was found. So you know they were burying, and I think on the Isle of Man there's been something like 20 plus hoards, silver hoards found. You know, and again, this was the money that was funding that great army that came over from Ireland. And when they landed in England, what they were trying to do was join up with the other great army as well. You know, to try and, well, where are we going to go to? And I think this was where we ended up with Ivor the Boneless at Repton. You know, which is where he's believed to have died. I know that I can remember people thinking that they were related to, but Ivor the Boneless died in England. You know, they were kicked out of Ireland and he died in England. They were pretty sure he was buried at Repton. They did find his skeleton in the 17th century. It was reburied, but when they excavated the burial mound again, which was a bit of a charnel house, it was obviously a mass grave. Everything had been jumbled up over 400 years. So, and they think possibly that, because they think he was 7 foot tall, and they think possibly that somebody had just taken the bones. We're never going to know what happened to him. It was like the bones of Joan of Arc, you know. What's this? I have an amazing idea. We should do a collaboration on it. It's a brilliant story, historical but all true. I'm game for that, Wix. Should we ever talk about it later on? So, yeah, well, he was ruthless, Cassius. He was absolutely ruthless. And what made me laugh was that, you know, the Saxons did everything they possibly could to get rid of the Vikings. As we're going on to Ethelred the Unready, is also known as, you know, in 1002 AD, so in 1002 AD, he just decided he wasn't going to, you know, because we had the Danegeld, and as everybody maybe will remember from my previous lives, in order to stop the Vikings running amok across the whole of Britain, they divided it into two. Everything, there was like a diagonal line drawn from like East Anglia right across to the River Mersey. So everything to the right and above that line became known as the Danelaw, and that was Viking land, and everything below it was Saxon controlled. And in order to keep that peace and keep them above that line, they were paid basically a ransom, a yearly ransom. It was the Danegeld. This is what Dar and I were laughing about, saying we're owed Danegeld. You stopped paying us in the 11th century, so just think of all that money we're owed as descendants of Norwegian Vikings. Anyway, so they decided, yeah, it was blackmail, Cassius. It absolutely was. And although a lot of people had, you know, they were wanting to live peaceably, but there was still the people like me, you know, fuck it, let's just go and have a fight. Let's go and crack a few skulls. You know, the people who, let's drink mead and go and fuck people up. So there were still those Vikings who wanted to retain that. Yeah, Wiki's the same. You know, you know what it's like, Cassius. Hibs have lost. You're going out. You want to kick some ass, don't you? It's exactly the same thing. So you had, for the most time, probably 80% of the Vikings in the Danelaw were just wanting to live like everybody else, and you had a 20% who were just turds, fighting turds. And Ethelred, King Ethelred, who then became Ethelred the Unready, he just decided, I'm not paying him anymore, fuck him. And it became known as the St. Brice's Day Massacre. And it was on a Saturday. And as most people will know, Vikings were very clean. Regardless of what people want to say, Vikings were very, very clean people. And Saturday was the bath day. Log's Day, or it's also known as like Loki's Day as well, but it was the baths day. And while the Vikings were preparing for, you know, the bath and cleaning themselves and all the rest of it, King Ethelred sent his soldiers into every Viking settlement that he could find, and it was an absolute massacre. Men, women, children, old, young, disabled, able-bodied, everybody that they could get hold of were slaughtered, and it was bad. You know, they committed some terrible crimes on them, and it was a way of, you know, there was like 300 years of pent up, near enough 300 years of pent up hatred and animosity, remembering that, you know, they came here, they weren't invited, they did this to our country, they've taken, they've murdered, they've slaughtered, not the fact that now they're living peaceably. So it was a bit of a revenge blow, but it was also done because the tight arse did not want to be paying them any more money. Obviously, some people got away, and these were Danes that he was slaughtering. They were the ones he could get hold of, and he slaughtered the Danish settlements, just wiped them out. And some people got away and managed to get to their king. Now, at the time, their king was Sven Forkbeard. And he was like, not having this. So Sven headed off and decided he was going to kick some Saxon backside. And he spent 10 years battling Ethelred. And in the end, he won. And Ethelred legged it and went over the channel and went and hid in France. And Sven Forkbeard then became king. And it didn't last very long. He was king only for a matter of about 12 weeks or so. Hi, Vids. Good to see you. It's not gnome, it's leprechaun. Salty asked her to say fuckbeard. No, Forkbeard. It's my accent. Sven Forkbeard. Yeah, it does sound like I'm saying fuckbeard, doesn't it? So he managed for, great to see you, Vids. Oh, I'm just going to stop. How's your pops doing, Vids? We were wondering about it the other day in Wiccan's Live. And I know Sheila had asked, a few people were asking, Wiccan, had she heard if your dad was okay, and everyone was sending love. So just wait for that. If you pop it in the chat, that'd be great. So not seen you around, so I've not been online. Can you do a live on the history of the gnomes where Wiccan is from? What is it, Lily? Excuse me. Yeah, little Lily. I've heard all about Lily. I think that's Cassis and Wiccan. They need to do a live. Although I've been told I'm part leprechaun because I'm so short. A pocket man. So anyway, I'm going to get back to while we're waiting for comments to come back in chat. So, yeah, that's it, Mr. Lely Cassius. I knew you'd remember him. So, yeah, he died. He'd only been king for... Oh, that's great, Vids. I'm really glad. That's great news. Yeah, so he'd only been king for a matter of like about 12, 16 weeks, something like that, and he carked it. So Ethelred, being the big tough guy, and we all know one of those, when they think the coast is clear, back he came. But by this time, Sven Footbeard's son was of an age, and he ended up taking the throne, and he is probably one of our best known, best loved, and actually one of our best kings ever, and it was Canute. So after all the centuries of wanting to get rid of the Vikings and not have them here and reverting the whole of England to Saxon rule, at the end of the day, we ended up with a Viking king after all. And people don't realise that Canute was a Viking, and he was. But it turned out he was one of our better kings. So that was all on the back of the St. Brice's Day massacre, which was November 1002 AD. Anywho, so I think I've kind of covered everything about where we were and about the tombs. If anybody wants to know anything else about the site, pop it in the chat. I knew it wasn't going to be a long one tonight because I just kind of I get all manic when I'm talking about my history, and then I forget what I'm talking about. And so, what's this? How's the lawn? I've been sending everyone with a dog to your place to take a bit. Oh, have you been getting dog wheat on your lawn? There's nothing worse. You know that you can get some stuff to put in the food, can't you? That stops that. Well, Cassius, that's more polite than I'm used to. It's been very interesting and insightful. I shall pop that up there. This is if it comes up. Do you think? Oh, yes, there you go. This layout is just weird. Yeah, I thought like usually you would have said that was fucking good, that. Interested, insightful. So yeah, let me just go back up the chat because I keep bugger. I really do not like this new layout. It's absolutely awful, isn't it? Comments are hidden and you can't see Jack. So yeah, so depending where we get to at the weekend, you're either going to get more historical stuff from ancient Britain, or you're going to be getting witches. I can't say which it'll be, but you'll be getting one of them. It was all you, was it? Okay, I believe you. Oh, thank you, Wiki. Like I say, I kind of jump around all over the place. All I can tell you is, if you're in England, or even, you know, Cassis, you and Salty decide to do a bit of a road trip, you must go. You absolutely must go. No, too late, Cassis. That was a slip. That. And especially like the day that we went, it was overcast. It was very warm. It was very humid, but it was overcast and it was windy. And you know the bit where I was playing over the graves and Maher, I don't know whether you saw Maher going in front of the camera, and Floki's war chant was going. That was so. I can't even tell you that it really, really was a moving sight to see. And that, you know, there's Half Moon Bay that's there. It's just a lovely place. But yeah, there are lots of places that you can stay. Where's the castle, Cassius? Whereabouts? Because I might have seen it. Because you know what I'm like, going to castles. Not Stirling though. Stirling was bloody expensive. And then you go somewhere like Doon and you get in for now. Or is it actually, I'm saying now, I think you can I think there's an honesty box, isn't there? Or there was. And then you go to what is it? Inverary? That's expensive and not worth it. I'll be perfectly honest. I was really unimpressed with that. Oh, I do want to do Lep Castle though, but Wiccan's got to take us there. I've got to do that one. Or like you said, Charleville as well. Innisconnell Castle on Loch Awe is amazing. That is a 13th century castle and it's still standing. And the wall you can get on. You can hire a little boat with an outboard motor from in the village and go over to the castle. Park your boat up, get off, and just walk on the on the walls, and they're like 9-foot thick walls. It's oh god, it's unbelievable. And the only reason, the old ovens, the kitchens are still there, the cellars are still there. It hasn't collapsed, and the only reason it hasn't collapsed is that they robbed out all the wood. They built the new castle at the top end of the loch, and they took all the timber because obviously, why get somebody else? Why spend a load of money getting, this timber hewn for, for beams and floorboards and everything else. So they robbed it all out, and because they did that, now normally when when a castle's been left to decay, as the wood rots, because the ends of the beams are set into the walls, as the wood rots, it tends to go in the middle. It collapses, it drags the walls down with them. So that's why a lot of these old castles are completely ruined. But the fact that they took the wood and they reused it has enabled this castle to stay standing. And anybody that goes to Loch Awe, you need to go and view this. It's just unbelievable. I was walking on walls that were 1,000 years old. Oh, what's this? Mel and I will be in Portugal in a couple of weeks, and we'll be showing the castles and history of the Knights Templars from a town. Oh, Vid! Oh, wow! I cannot wait for that. Will you be scheduling that in? That will be absolutely amazing. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, if you schedule them in, Vids, and then we can all make sure that we get notifications for it. That would be fantastic. I've never been to Portugal. Yeah, me too, Wick, and I'll share the crap out of it as well. That sounds absolutely fantastic. I cannot wait for that. I bet that's some flight, isn't it? Getting to Portugal from the US. How long's that going to take? I'm just going to pop that up on screen so that people can see. 11 hours. Wow, that's some flight. Oh, yeah, of course. Fatima is in Portugal. I always forget that. That's the secrets, isn't it, Our Lady of Fatima? Isn't it? Was there 3 secrets or something? The Vatican kind of knows. Did they keep all of them? Oh, God, I can't even remember now. What some Catholic I am. 20 minutes away from Fatima. Oh, that'll be fantastic. Oh, that'll be really good. Do you know what? You will get some attention for that. If you do that live, that will be absolutely amazing. I love anything like that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The 3 children, but there were so many secrets told, weren't there? And then, the Virgin Mary appeared to the children, but then, the one, right? Yeah, I knew there was something. The Vatican kept hold of it, and but it's like St. Bernadette, isn't it? A poor girl, and Our Lady appeared to her. And I've never been to Lourdes. As I was saying today, one of my friends is called Lourdes. As you can guess, she is a Catholic. I've never been, but I'd love to go. Yeah, you're in the right, definitely in the right group here. We all love our history. I just totally geek out on it. I cannot get enough of history, especially ancient history, especially things like the Templars. And I've always fancied, the Cathar history in southern France. You know, the Languedoc region. Um, the Cathars just fascinate me, absolutely fascinate me. Um, I don't know if anybody's ever been, or I mean, I wanted to before I kind of went off doing my own thing, but I'd been reading up on the Cathars, and I wanted to do a live about it, but it was so in depth, and it was actually really, really heartrending what happened. Oh, you say Lurder? Okay. We say Lurds. So yeah, that was an Irish version. Okay. Yeah, but it's like oh God, I remember. I think I told you this, didn't I? One of my friends at school was called Siobhan. I had a Nula as well, and then obviously they're not spelt how they sound. And I just remember Siobhan got really annoyed because we had a new teacher in and she kept calling us Siaban. Well, for anybody who doesn't know, I'm going to post it. That is how you, let me see if I've got it in chat. That is how you spell Siobhan. Oh, you as well, Cassie. Oh, yes, see, Cassie's has spelt it the same as well. And the teacher kept calling us Siaban. Siaban. And I just remember she said, I think we were about 15, 16. And she said, if that, and this was and the thing is, this was a nun. So she should have known how to pronounce it, for God's sake. Anyway, and I just remember Siobhan, and she went, if that old bitch calls me Siaban one more fucking time. She was really, really annoyed. Oh, you're weeding the garden. Oh, I'm glad you're still here, Six. I'm glad you're still here. Yeah, but it was just, I'd never forget that. I've never forgotten that. If that old bitch calls me Siaban one more time. Oh, I don't know. But it was the same with Nula and what's it called as well? Saoirse. That's another one. I know that's it, Siobhan. Siaban. Piss off. The only reason I knew how to spell it is because she was in the same class as me and I'd see her name. Well, that's it. But it's one of those that, you grow up around Irish Catholics, like Polish as well. I'm actually pretty good with Polish names. And I went to school with a Spanish girl as well, Pilar. Used to say, Siobhan, your knickers, your my's coming. Siobhan, your knickers. Well, actually, I could go one better than that. My very first holiday, it was like, the In-Betweeners. And we went to Greece. And this Greek waiter, and I remember my friend, there were 5 of us. I remember my friend and said, what's your name? And he went, Anesta. And I misheard him and I went, a what? A water? And she went, Anesta, as in a nest of bastard rats. It's another one I've never forgotten. Oh my God. Oh, let's have a look here now. A lot of history in Portugal. My city is where the Knights Templars built the first castle back 1160. Uh, the order played a crucial role in defending Portugal. And do you know what as well? The whole thing about the Knights Templars vids, it's, the way that they were annihilated, absolutely disgraceful. And when you look at places like Acre, and the work that they did there, and the underground water tanks that still have fresh water in them, all the work of the Templars, it's absolutely fascinating. But what they did, and it just shows, doesn't it? Even to this day, Friday the 13th, it's seen as bad luck, and that was the day that the Templars were annihilated. Absolutely dreadful. The Templars are fascinating, Cassius. Oh, do you know, I'm really looking forward to this live of vids. Yeah, please give us a load of warning when when you're going to be there, and then we all know to keep an eye on, because I am really looking forward to that. So, were you born in Portugal, COVIDs? My next abroad destination, Portugal. I don't know where I would fancy going abroad. It will, Cassius, it will. You have a Knights Templar that was buried in a church in Dublin. And then you've got the Templars church in London as well. Do you know, we need to get Lisa to go there and video that for us. She's got loads of history around near her anyway. So, yeah. Oh, it's turning into a right night of history, this, isn't it? Yeah, I've missed doing these streams. I think drama got in the way, and it's, we're getting back to our history and our Vikings and our scary stuff. But I'm more into history at the minute, just because I've just been enjoying, because I've been able to go and visit things and see things, and I don't know, it's just kind of reignited my love of everything historical. Right, I can't actually see old comments. Who are we talking about now? Who are we talking about? You love where who lives, where Frida lives, or I couldn't get enough of it in primary. Oh, all the history being wiped out. Yeah, that's been happening quite a lot, Wiki. I'm not going to say any more here, but yeah, it's. I think it's wrong. God, you guys remember about that ghost story as well, where my friend's dad grew up in that house. Who are we subscribing to? I'm really struggling to follow the chat. I'm seeing like bits of a I'm seeing bits of a chat, and then everything's vanishing. And I actually think the damn chat's frozen as well. Oh, to me. Oh, sorry, Six. Oh, well, that's very kind of you, but I will make you a mod. I have everybody mods. This started off as an FU to somebody. So we used to all be members in a chat. A lady called Bam, who, rest in peace, she's passed away last year. And you'd have some snarky people, some jealous bitches who'd say, oh, when you look in there, the only people who are in there are the mods. They weren't, but, we all used to be very loyal, and you'd turn up and you'd support people, the same as these guys do, the same as I will do for all of you lot who have channels. So when I set my channel up, just as an FU to that, and it was Dirty Dot who said it, I just decided to make everybody mods, so that now you can say that everybody in chat is a mod. All right, sorry, Wiccan, I'd missed it. admit I just can't follow the chat. It's a nightmare. So I am going to wind this one up now because my little dog is now looking at me because, as you all know, he won't go to the toilet in my garden. I have to take him out. He'd rather die than pee up a wall in the garden, which is great. And my lawn looks beautiful. Sorry, COVIDs. However, it means I've got to take him out. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope I kind of did get some interesting history out to you all. And it's really difficult when I get so carried away. I don't do it in any kind of order, and I get sidetracked and we go off talking about other things. And so I'm sorry if I've been a bit all over the place, but I hope I've given you a bit of an insight into that area. And I really, really want to encourage anybody who is in the northwest of England, be it visiting, living, passing through, please go and visit Heysham Head. Visit the village of Heysham. It's beautiful. You can go up the coast and go to Morecambe. You can have your photograph taken with the statue of the one and only Eric Morecambe up on the promenade. It's a nice place to be, and you're only a stone's throw away from the South Cumbria, the Lake District. So it's lovely. You're not that far from Scotland, to be fair. Because it was really good listening. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much, Cassius. That's really, really kind. And yeah, Super Duper Cooper saying hello to everybody. No, he's not really. He's kind of just looking at the back door. So yeah, thank you all for coming in. Like I said, oh, you're in the northeast of New England. Oh, you're Danny After Dark is in your area as well. She's Massachusetts. Is that where you are? The only place, I know it sounds awful, and I'm so sorry anybody in America who I might insult, because I don't mean to, but the one place that I've always wanted to visit is, New England. Oh, Maine. Well, I was trying to catch up before I go. I was trying to catch up. Salty bitch, you said something in Wickens Live about John Paul Jones. Okay, is Brian still here? Brian the Bastard, are you still in the chat? Because if you go back over, I'm sure I've got them either in my, it's either in, it might be my Adventures with Cooper. It might be one of my Adventures with Cooper. So John Paul Jones, yeah, he basically invented the Navy. I've done a live on John Paul Jones because the Paul Jones, his father was an undergardener at the big house over at Carsthorne, and that's where Brian has his holiday home. It's where I used to go every year. And it basically, I did a whole thing about Paul Jones. The pub in Southern Est Village is called the Paul Jones. I went and I filmed his, where he grew up, and yeah. So, but obviously I wasn't in the chat. I only got it on the catch up. I was like, shit, you know about Paul Jones. So yeah, there is something in my channel, but I can't remember if I think it's an Adventures with Cooper. And I filmed it, I think it was 2 years ago, but the place I go to every year. Damn it, now we're going to start fighting again. Thanks, Kish. You're welcome. But please feel free to go back. But also the other thing is that my old farmhouse that me and my ex owned was owned by, well, not owned while we had it. It was built by the Standish family. And as you all know, Sir Miles Standish, captain of the Mayflower. And they're the links from Standish in, was Lancashire, now known as Greater Manchester. But we've got a lot of links to New England. So my Jojo, hey Salma, how you doing, my girl? Oh, you've missed my history. But yeah, so that's the link to the Mayflower. And I lived in a farmhouse that had been owned by Miles Standish's family. And even in the village of Standish itself, which is named for his family, there is there's an industrial estate, and that's called the Mayflower Works. And obviously they're the links back to the Mayflower and the Pilgrims. So yeah, it's a very small world. So that's why I've got a real love of I've always wanted to go to the East Coast and to New England and visit and have a look round. I was just about to close down, Joe, my darling. I'm so sorry that we've missed you. You're fashionably late. Oh, so it's fine. We'll share him because Scotland is God's country too. Right, guys and gals. Oh, I feel really bad I've missed my Jojo, but it's really good to see you. I will be doing another live in a few days' time. I'm getting back into my history. So we're going to start doing more history stuff again now that I'm going out and visiting and filming and what have you. But I'll do it properly. It was kind of an afterthought because the weather was a bit too bad to get the sound right, and I can't edit like shit. But I'll see if I can get himself to do it for me because he's really talented like that. Okay, so thank you all so much for coming in. Six Banger, I will make you a mod when I come off here. I'm sorry I missed my Jojo. You know I love you to pieces. It's brilliant to have Vids coming in, everybody coming in, but I cannot wait for this live that Vids is going to do. If you're not subbed to Vids, please make sure that you sub to him. And my Frida, I've missed you. Brian, I've missed you. Cassius, we can't get rid of you. So I'm only joking. Sheila, who I know she's busy with her sister. Wiki, love you as always. I'll speak to you when I come off this live because I know you want to talk about doing something with you. Salty Bitch, who have I missed? Danny After Dark. Oh God, if I've missed anybody, please remind me because I'm just about to log off. Right, okay, on that. Oh, Voodoo Queen as well. Voodoo, thank you for popping in earlier. Right, lovelies, thank you. I'm sorry it's been so long, but house and man and living life and and I'm really sorry that I've not been around, but I'm going to rectify that. And I will start doing one live a week at the very minimum. And we're going to do a quiz. That's going to be the next offering. Okay, so thank you all very much. I'm really made up that you all came in. I'm glad that you got something from my live. I'm really sorry if I started waffling on and being boring, but I try not to be. And as always, I'll see you on the bright side.